Hi, my name is Steve Boston, and I am a TV producer and documentarian. And I wanted to do a few videos about a new era in America. And um, we really can't start a new era, in my opinion, until we look back and find out some of the mistakes, you could say, if you want to call them mistakes. Some people may not. And why the economy is in the state it's in, why we have nearly $40 trillion in debt, why the American dollar is weaker than it used to be, and there's so much competition now from other countries who really don't want to use the dollar anymore, including Russia and China, and how we got here. So in future videos, I'll do some videos on the future of energy and different kinds of energy and things like this, but I wanted to briefly discuss how we got here. And from a military standpoint, starting in 1950 to 1953, we had the Korean War. We spent a lot of money. We lost a lot of lives. And North Korea was basically devastated at the end of that war. There's probably just barely a few buildings left. And it ended up in a stalemate or an armistice. And you could say neither side won. We didn't win, and I guess you could say they didn't win either. That cost billions of dollars of debt. And then we move on to the Vietnam War, which started in 1965 to 1973, which caused many billions of dollars, many American lives, and much debt. And we basically destroyed Vietnam, bombing that country to smithereens, if you could use that term. And what was the end result? We didn't win that war. That was also similar to Korea, where we had to flee in 1975. It ended in 1973, and now Vietnam is Vietnam. North Vietnam had basically taken over that country, and it's a thriving country now. So I'm not sure what we really accomplished, other than spending billions of dollars, killing a lot of people, losing a lot of American lives under a so-called pretense of the domino theory. We're afraid that communism would spread throughout the rest of the world, which really turns out to be a false premise. So right after that, we had a lot of debt, and Nixon in 1971 took the dollar off of the gold standard, basically defaulting. And because we spent so much money in those previous two wars, that we had a tremendous amount of debt, and we didn't have the gold to keep on funding these wars. So we had to find another way. Nixon took us off the gold standard in August of 71, and in February 72, Nixon went to China to open up relations there and to make China a trade partner. And then we began in earnest to ship our manufacturing to China, to have them be our manufacturing hub of the United States. Much cheaper labor. The corporations went there, and you could say it succeeded in that sense, but it hollowed out the United States industry as we see today. And the United States was fine with that until later on, when China started using the industry that we basically built into their own industry, and to create their own trading partners now, which we don't like, because they're no longer under our thumb as they once were. They're a world power. So moving on from 1972 to 1974, we had the petrodollar created. That's when we had the oil problems in the Middle East, and we made a deal with Saudi Arabia to only sell their oil in American dollars in exchange for security. And that created many countries who wanted the U.S. Treasury bonds to make whatever percentage that they would make from there. So the dollars were funded back into the United States, and then we had, excuse me, just dropped my phone a second there. So there was a lot of debt sold to other countries, and then it could fund whatever we were doing. Basically, we had just endless money printing. We move on to 1991, I believe, is when the Soviet Union failed. And then there was only one hegemon in the world, that was us. China was still growing. Soviet Union basically fell, and that just basically became Russia. And at that point, we started to do more what's called financialization of our economy, from a industrial economy to a financialization, which means speculation, creating all sorts of derivatives from stocks and ETFs, which means a bet from a bet from a bet. And so we have trillions of dollars of derivatives. Many people might not know that. But so that's when we really started to spike up in the stock market, in prices and inflation. And also the debt that was created started, if you look back at the charts, from there. It's almost like a move up this way, or you could say move up that way. And so then we move into the 2003, the invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan, billions of dollars invading those countries and also killing many, many people, and also in Libya, Syria. Probably can't even remember all the Middle Eastern countries that the United States has invaded. And so billions and billions of dollars now by that point in debt. And we move on to COVID, which then created several more $trillion of debt. And we are now as we all know, in Iran, and asking for another $200 billion for that war. So among other things, it's not just war that's created all this debt. Back in the 60s, it was Johnson's Great Society and the moon projects also created a lot of debt. So we've been spending more than we've been making for years and years and years, and now we're over $39 trillion in debt, headed to $40 trillion. So how do we begin a new era in America that's more spiritually in tuned, morally and ethically as a nation, with collaboration, cooperation with other nations throughout the world, creating a win-win with everyone? Stop creating enemies and building our nation for our families, individuals, Main Street America. We have to go back to building our industry in Main Street America and stop the speculation. We have to have an industrial economy, a modern industrial economy. So I just wanted to go over some of the reasons why we're in the debt and the problems that we have. Either we're going to, as a people, come together and say, no more wars. We have to focus on building what we need to build going into the future for us and the future generations. And we have to get out of the old ways, of the old mindset of war as the solution to problems. As Lindsey Graham might say, we're going to kill our way to peace. Well, that's never worked. You create revenge, you create terrorists, and it creates a whole series of events, like throwing a pebble into a pond. So thank you for watching this. Stay tuned for future episodes. Leave a comment if you wish. You can agree, you can disagree. It won't make a difference to me. And sorry for the lighting is not too great. I'm a TV producer. You'd think I'd have better lighting. So, and I see my little bowl here. Let me take a little bite of some oatmeal I made. Sorry about that. I'm kind of hungry. Nobody's going to watch this anyway. So, stay tuned for future videos. And I thank you, if you are tuning in, for staying all this way to the end. Hope it made some sense for you. Take care.